Alright guys, welcome back. I just installed this bottom seat cushion that I recovered myself. This is not some seat cover that I bought from LMC Truck or from Classic Industries. I made this seat cover myself to my specs with my color combination that I wanted. And it wasn't that hard, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to start working on this Suburban's interior. You guys probably saw when I first bought this thing, we stripped it out, we cleaned it up, got all the crap out of there, replaced the carpet, the headliners, dyed a bunch of the interior pieces, let's see, new dash, painted the metal around the dash with this 2000 ultra silver color, but the seats need some help. So let me show you what's going on here. Alright guys, well you can see these are the existing blue seats that came in the Suburban. I have no reason to think that these are not original. Well, let me back up. I have no reason to think that this is not the original color. I do believe these front seats have been replaced at some time, but I do think blue was the original color. It's funny though because this Suburban was ordered silver with the lower rockers in red. So a silver, red, and a blue interior. You know, all this interior stuff around here was all blue, so I'm pretty sure this was a blue interior Suburban. This is the front seat. My wife has been picking up some strange smells inside the Suburban. You know how wives are. And we were thinking it was probably the back seat. Alright, so we pulled the bottom seat cushions back here. I do think this is the original upholstery for the Suburban. I think it's pretty correct for an 84 model. It's kind of like this textured blue velour. It's faded quite a bit over the last 30 years. 25 years? 30, what was it, 35 years? Ugh, getting old. 35 years. And it's just time to replace it. So alright, my wife tried to wash these things, so they've been drying in the sun for a couple of days now, and I think they're probably pretty good now. I don't know, they still feel heavy, but I don't feel any wetness anymore, so hopefully these things are ready to go. But the foam itself is in decent shape. We cleaned up the seat frames on those cushions. They were pretty rusty. I hit them with a wire brush and then some rust converting primer that I got at Home Depot, and then with some black paint on top of that, and they all look pretty good now. These are the back panels, and I'm going to be hitting some of that with some color coat, some of that charcoal colored color coat that I use to dye the interior trim pieces, so that'll match when I'm all said and done. And I am getting goodies in the mail. This is a foam, 1/4 inch foam with a thin cloth bonded to one side. So I'll be using this to put a little padding in my upholstery work. Alright, well I have done some upholstery work before. I'm a little scared to show you guys this. I have not seen this in probably a month, and we have been getting a lot of rain and high humidity levels and a covered boat that doesn't have the most waterproof of covers, and sometimes strange things happen here. By strange, I mean mold. Okay, let's see here. Okay, this isn't too bad. All right, it's nice. All right, well anyway, like I said, I did all this stuff here. This is a little sample of my handiwork here. This is a 2000 model wake setter. So it is 19 years old, and I tell you, the upholstery was just beaten on it. So I bought a straight stitch machine and a bunch of vinyl, and over about 12 months I slowly put together this entire boat again. So this thing's looking pretty good. So this gave me a lot of confidence in my sewing abilities. So hopefully we'll be able to get this Suburban a new interior. Alright, well, we got the seat covers off the old bench seat from the back. Actually, this is a 60/40, I guess, split bench seat. Foil. And flipping it upside down, you can kind of see how these things were made. It's got some kind of a foam material on the inside here and on the inside here. So we'll be replicating this look pretty much. We'll have to sew in some cord, so we can use our hog ring pliers to secure this to the frame. And that's about it. We'll start with the easy ones, see how it goes. You can see the original color there, how much it's faded over the years. Actually, that's probably the best show of right there. See, this is faded a little bit. And we'll be doing the same thing as the factory did here. This is going to be the silver section right here in the middle, and then we'll trim it with the dark charcoal all the way around. Alright, this guy's into hard rock. Rush. Rock on. Okay, so if you're going to make your own seat covers, then one of the very first things you're going to need is a straight stitch sewing machine. I looked around Craigslist. There's a couple of good brand names out there. You're looking for probably one of the older ones, you know, like from the 40s or 50s. Who knows how they're going to perform? Who knows if they've been properly maintained over the years? But you're looking for an industrial sewing machine that can do straight stitching, preferably with a walking foot. Okay. I could not find one that I liked and trusted, so I decided just to buy a brand new one from Sailrite. This is the Ultra Feed LS1, and it is a straight stitch machine, no frills, just your basic bare bones straight stitch machine, and it was about twice as much as some of the used ones on Craigslist, about even with other used ones on Craigslist. So I felt like I did an okay purchase here. I highly recommend this machine. It hasn't given me any problems yet. I did my whole boat with this machine, so definitely check out Sailrite, S-A-I-L-R-I-T-E, and get one of these machines if you're planning on doing your own upholstery work. Okay, I decided to match that dark gray charcoal velour with this regal velour. As you can guys can kind of see, the regal velour is the two-tone velour. This one is silver and black, and I think it goes with this charcoal very, very well. So choose whatever you want. You know, I like to kind of mix up materials and patterns and stuff like that for a better effect. But you could do the whole thing in charcoal if you wanted to. You could do the whole thing in regal if you wanted to. These were actually the same price. So buy what you like and just get it done. Alright, you guys can kind of see now, there's a little bit of the two-tone pattern there as a way of my hand in front of the camera, trying to get to focus. Come on, focus. There you go. But you kind of get the idea of how it looks up close. Ooh, right there. Oh, that was good. Alright, so I'm unpacking everything I got from Sailrite. They're the marine upholstery guys that I use, but they also do like interior upholstery, you know, couches and chairs and that kind of stuff as well. This is the 1/4-inch foam, but look what it says on the label here. Items are compressed for shipping and must be unpacked on delivery. Compressed foam takes up to a week to regain its original size and shape. Allow foam to fully decompress before cutting or using in our project. So, I'm going to open this up and set it outside, and we're going to put our Suburban project on hold for a week. Sorry guys, be back later. Alright, so we already got our other cushion out of the back of the Suburban. This is seat bottom number 2, the larger one, the 60% seat here. So we're going to go ahead and start cutting this thing apart, and we'll try to match the factory pattern as far as the contouring goes. To rip it apart, I like to use just a straight razor blade. And we'll just carefully try to break the threads without cutting the fabric itself. You hear the threads pop as I touch them with the razor blade. And these are not seams, these are actually just sewn in there for a pattern effect. So we're not going to separate them here, just around the edges. And we're free! Well, almost. Okay. You can see there's still 2 different panels here sewn together here. You can see the texturing that the factory did on this original. This is the seat bottom here. This is the part that goes behind the seat. Yeah. And gets screwed to the back deck here. You can see all the screw holes. You can also see how much it's faded over the years. Versus, you know, the original blue versus the blue it is now. So it's faded quite a bit in the last 25 years? 35 years? 35 years, wow. So, yeah. So let's do a little bit more here. Sometimes when you're disassembling these things, it's helpful to mark where the pieces go. Because when you hit them all laid out on the table, sometimes it can be a little confusing. So I think like make a couple of marks, like 1 and 2. Show where they join up here. Kind of like that. This helps me to put things back together later on. Okay, so I've got my seat cushion top, the pillowed area, sitting on top of my Regal velour fabric. And make sure you have it, you know, flared out on the sides so you can see the actual width of the fabric. And I am going to give myself a little extra room here, a little extra fabric. When you sew these pleats into the fabric, the whole thing is going to shrink on you a little bit. So I'm going to just cut out an extra inch down here on this side so that I can make sure I don't end up a little short. No one likes to be short. And on the leading edge here, it can be pretty close. I do not expect this fabric to shrink this way. Alright, so this stuff here is 1/4 inch foam, and if you notice, the original fabric has the foam sewed into it as well. There's like a cloth backing, foam on the inside, and of course the upholstery on the far side. I tried to do this using just 1/4 inch foam before, and I did not like the result, so I'm actually going to double up on this foam. We're going to cut out 2 pieces in the same size as that first piece that I just cut out. Alright, I'm going to flip this over just in case there's any discrepancy on my original cut. Sometimes your patterns may be odd sizes. This looks pretty rectangular to me. I'm just going to lay this back down here and cut out one more piece. Back up. The reason I cut 2 pieces in opposite directions is because I am going to glue these 2 pieces together to make a 1/2 inch foam. So I want to make sure that they fit well on top of each other. That's it there. Okay. So that's how the 3 pieces are going to go together. I put the foam next to each other because when you're sewing through here, the thread's going to catch on this upholstery and they're going to catch on this lining on the outside. With the lining here against the upholstery, the machine doesn't know the difference. If you were to place these to where this lining is in the middle, then it would affect how you get the pinch out of your upholstery, out of your pleats. Believe me, I tried that too. I didn't think it'd make a difference, and I sewed one whole cushion top like that. It makes a difference. You want to glue the 2 foam faces together. Okay, time to be doing some gluing. I'm using 3M general purpose 45 spray adhesive. It's cheap, works well. You don't need the super hold stuff. I've got some of the super hold stuff as a backup in case I run out of this stuff, but not really needed. And you only want to glue half of this thing at a time. Because if you do the whole thing and try to get the foam to sit on there evenly, you'll never get the wrinkles out. It's a pain. So just do half. Try not to get the adhesive too thick anywhere. You don't want any puddling. Don't get it on your upholstery. Not yet anyway. Let me go ahead and pull this out. That's not really needed right now. I need to set a good example for you guys. Now I'm getting a little closer to the edges here. Alright. I want to give this stuff about 60 seconds to tack up. Alright. There we go. That looks pretty good. Alright. Once that one side is glued down. Put this over and do the same thing on the other side. On this one here, to avoid pooling on the upholstery, I am just going to spray a little extra on the foam and nothing on the velour. You get a better stick spraying them on both surfaces, but this is adequate for what we need it for. So let's give it 60 seconds. Okay, so the glue is pretty dry, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off some of this excess foam that I don't need. Okay, so now I've got these two pieces of foam glued together, fabric glued on top of it. I've located the center line and I am going to mark it with my blue painter's tape. I am using Blue's painter's tape because it's not quite as sticky as regular tape. And I'm using the tape instead of a marker because I want to use this tape to try to line up the pattern on the upholstery. Okay. If your upholstery doesn't have a pattern like the charcoal velour that I had before, then it may be easier just to draw lines on the back side and sew from this side. But I want to make sure that my sew lines are parallel with a pattern. So I'm going to mark each single line all the way across. I'm going to do a center sew line right here to the right of this one. And then I'm going to step it off 2 1/4, maybe 2.5 inches, we'll see. And put in my other sew lines all the way across to create our pattern. So let's get sewing. Okay, time to get the Sailrite going. Well, real quick before you load the upholstery, I am using the walking foot. I tend to leave the one with the little cutout for welting. I can show you that later. On here all the time, it doesn't seem to bother me. The thread I am using is a V63, I believe is what it is. That basically talks about how strong it is. A 92 is a little stronger, and I use the 92 threads for my boat, but this is going to be inside, hopefully away from most UV rays for the most part. I've got tinted windows. I think the 63 should be fine. The thread hangs off to the side here, runs through the machine, through a tensioner down below. The bobbin is loaded with the same thread, and this goes in from below. I can change the stitch length with this device right here, but I just leave it at maximum stitch length all the time. I can also hand roll each single stitch if I wanted to. I've got to fold this up a little bit in order to make room to get this up in there. Let's see how we're going to do this. This is quite a bit wider than my other one. And let's see, grab my threads. And I want to load this thing so where the center foot is right on the edge of my tape. Drop it down. I'm going to hold the threads. I'm just going to put a couple of stitches in there. After a couple stitches, it'll hold itself. You don't have to worry about the threads being pulled through. Some people will do a back stitch, which means you stitch forward a few, and then you stitch backwards a few, and then you go ahead and finish it up. But these seams will all be sewed together at some point, so the back stitching isn't really necessary. Plus, I tend to tie my thread ends together anyway. I will do back stitching if I have a seam that's going to stay exposed under tension. These will not be that type. So here we go, nice and slow. You can see I got really good control over this. I'm just watching the edge of my tape as I feed everything through, nice and slow. And this is a black thread. The end. Foot up. Bring out some thread. Then I'm going to cut it so that I have enough to grab on my next pass and enough that I can tie it off here if I want to. So that's my first seam. So I'm basically going to measure off 2 1/4 from that first seam. And 1/4. And then we'll connect the dots and make sure that our pattern remains parallel to our tape line, our sew line. Alright, so we're gonna eyeball this. That's pretty close. Alright, let's make another pass. Alright, again, we're gonna roll this up. And don't worry, I'm not gonna show every single stitch here. Drop that down. And again, I gotta hold these threads. I'll just hand crank this a couple times to get it started. There we go. Alright, so now those threads won't pull out and we can go ahead and do our sew line. Alright, well, I've done sewing all the pleats. There were actually 16 total, not 11. Okay. When I finished up, I had a little bit of a mismatch. I'm not sure if I measured the midline wrong or if my measurements got a little bit funny as I went through there. I mean, it looks pretty good here. But we're going to match this up to the original upholstery, and if any trimming needs to be done, then we'll even out these two ends right there. Okay, so maybe take a little bit more off this one than that one, whatever it takes, okay, to make it look even. But yeah, that's it. Oh, and all these little loose strings here, I'm going to go ahead and tie these off. What I do is I'll go to the back side. Let's see, and I'll pull on one, and that'll expose the other thread. I'll try to pull it through, and then I'll grab the loop, pull it out, voila. And then I can throw in a double or triple knot to make sure this thread doesn't go anywhere. But that'll have to be done, gosh, 32 times. Like that. And then clip off the excess. Okay, so these are the side skirts that go around the cushion. And I've already traced out the first one here. This one has the foam just like the padding does, but I'm just going to use one layer of foam instead of two for the sides since we're not going to be pleating it. So let's cut this out. I am using a 1/2 inch margin for a sew line most of the way around. This bottom edge here is where I'm going to try to put some cord so I can hog ring it down. My first cushion I didn't leave enough, I did 1/2 inch. I don't think it was quite enough. Okay, so I left 3/4 inch this time because that cord is kind of thick. And I am going to pre-sew it as well before I put the whole cushion together. Let's see if that helps out this time around. Every time I do one of these things, I learn a little bit more. Not quite on the chicha flow level yet, if you know who I'm talking about. If you don't, you may want to YouTube him. Chicha Flow, F-L-O. Alright, so again, we're going to cut out some foam pieces. Since we're just doing a single layer on these side skirts, you need to pay attention what side fabric is touching your upholstery. The fabric part of the foam is touching the velour part, so that when we glue these together, the foam part will be touching the back side. Okay, that's important. You don't want the fabric part to be glued to the upholstery. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but I'm actually cutting about a 1/2 inch to the outside of my drawn line. That just gives me a little extra room to position the upholstery on the foam when I glue it together, and I'll just trim off the extra foam later on. Okay, well, as you guys probably noticed, this pattern uses a two-piece front valance around the cushion. So the first step, of course, is to sew those two pieces back together. So we're just going to line this up and run it through here. How easy was that? I'm gonna go ahead and tie off these ends though, so they don't go anywhere. There's that. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this over and put a second stitch in here. That's kind of like a locking stitch. This helps to hold things tight. So this stitch will be visible from the outside. So try to make it straight. Make it pretty like a French seam. If you don't know what a French seam is, then you certainly want to subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be redoing a pair of Mustang GT seats to make them look like a set of vintage Recaros at some point. I want to put those in the Trans Am. I think they look pretty cool. That's another thing. If you do the back stitching, you still end up with a little bit of thread sticking out on your exposed upholstery. And this technique hides the extra threads. That's something that Chicha Flow is not going to teach you. I figured that out myself. But this is the result here. I don't know if you guys can see that. So you have the seam, then you have the cross stitching across it on top of it. So that actually looks pretty nice. Yeah, so next up I want to try to hide this cord in the upholstery because the way the machine is set up, it's really hard to do when you get everything assembled. Let's give it a try. Let's see how it works. Like this. And this is the top cushion part here. So you can see that if I have the cushion and everything attached, it's going to be too large for this little clearance that I have. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to try to roll it over just a little bit here. A couple stitches in there. Good. Alright, let's see how this works. This is a pretty big cord. I'd rather have smaller cord. But this is all that Sailrite was offering at the time, so we'll see if it works. Alright, here's the halfway point. I'm just going to walk this over that stitch, because it can be a little tough sometimes. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So, I don't know if you guys can tell, but this foot right here has a little concavity in there which helps to cover this cord. It helps to guide the machine. So I'm just kind of keeping the cord pressed up against this edge here and underneath this foot, and the machine pretty much does it for you. It's really nice. I'm going to back this up here real quick. There we go. I went ahead and did that here because this is going to be underneath the cushion. You're not going to see any extra threads. So just a little demo. I know how to do it. In case you guys were wondering, I do know how. I just don't always use that feature. Alright, so as you can see, when you're stretching this over the edge of the frame, and you're bringing it around and you're grabbing your hog ring plier to get in there and hold it to the frame or the springs or whatever, now you're going to be pulling on that cord instead of just the fabric and foam. And that's going to be a lot stronger and keep the hog rings from pulling through the fabric. On my first one, I didn't give myself enough material, and I wound up using this fabric. This is the fabric you use when you do a French seam. It comes in white and black. And I like to use about 1 inch wide fabric to make sure I have plenty of room, because when you're doing curves and stuff, a lot of times you'll get off the fabric and have to stop and go back and pull out your stitches and redo it. But this is very tough too, so you could just sew this into the edge as well and put your hog wings in here and hold it. But this is the more of the traditional way of doing the hog wings. Alright, so I still got to do the back valance. Here we go. As well. So, right here. That. Can you guys see here? The thread pulled out, or the cord wasn't tucked back where it was supposed to be. I did good down here, but on this top part, I kind of flubbed that one. Remember what I said before about the razor blade? Here we go. I'm just going to go in here and pop these stitches. See, I make mistakes too. I don't know, it's funny, I was just about to make a comment too that this is so much easier than working on boat vinyl. But, I didn't speak it, but I sure thought it. Alright, well that's it for part one. don't go anywhere. We got part 2 coming up real soon. So make sure you subscribe, and I'll catch you later.